All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to DFS Army's Tournament Strategy Show. Today, you have the one and only B-Dubs joining me. B-Dubs, how you doing, man? Good to have you on the show.
I'm good, man. Excited NBA is back. Happy to be on my first show with the Army, so definitely ready to
Yeah.
start digging
Hey,
in.
we're happy to have you. If anything, we're lucky to have you. For those of you that don't know, B-Dubs, he's taken down multiple DraftKings GPP tournaments. He's really good there. For those of you who have been with DFS Army for a while, you know B-Dubs is the guy who can give you those sneaky, low-owned, high upside plays. I would say that's pretty much your bread and butter. But
Yep.
how would you describe yourself, man? Like, where would you say like your strong suit is when it comes to DFS?
Kind of like you said, definitely. I'm a GPP player. Mainly play mini max, faithful mini max player, and then last season I got more into single entry. Had quite a bit of success in single entry as well.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know me, I forgot to introduce myself here. I'm Bob226, aka I go by Josiah too. I've taken down a few DraftKings GPPs, a few six-figure wins as well. So you're in good hands. You're in good company with us. We're here to help you all out. And speaking of, this is the Tournament Strategy Show. We're gonna break down today's slate and try to find some sneaky spots. So this is the first day of NBA DFS, and it's already freaking insane with injury news and people out. And but if you don't love that, you don't love NBA DFS. So get over it, get into the insanity, and let's go ahead and talk through this slate. Typically, too, we'll talk through the previous slate, guys that did well, guys that didn't do well. We'll look at the 100K winning lineup, but not today. So let me pull this up. For those of you that don't know, this is DFS Army's domination station, DZS for short. This thing is for VIP members only here at DFS Army. If you're interested, feel free to click the link in the description to join and become a member here to have access to this and have access to our cheat sheets and player pools and things of that sort. B-Dubs, you do a sheet on the website as too, right? What do you do?
Yes, I have a leverage page as well, and then I also do usually do the DraftKings slate tiers sheet.
Nice, awesome. So yeah, a lot of good stuff. But let's jump into this two-gamer. Nice and kind entryway to NBA DFS. The first game on the slate is this Lakers versus Nuggets game. What are your thoughts, or how do you feel about this game one, B-Dubs?
I like it. I think I like the Nugget side a little more, of course, but I definitely like a couple pieces on the LA side.
Okay. Well, let's start off talking about the LA side. From an injury news standpoint, hate that we have to even bring it up, but Vanderbilt's out. And so some people were expecting Vanderbilt to end up in the starting lineup for the Lakers tonight. Obviously, that's not going to be the case with him out. We do see Prince kind of step into that small forward role for them when it comes to the Lakers. Any play on the Lakers is kind of standing out for you? Do you have interest in Prince? What are your thoughts?
It's kind of hard with Prince because he's not really known as a high fantasy point per minute player, but I'm definitely willing to play him for sure, especially if he's starting and getting 20 plus minutes. He's worth some shares at that price tag as a starter on a two game slate.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, the Prince is coming from the Timberwolves, right?
Yep.
And I think those of you who've been playing DFS for a while, we've played Torn Prince in decent spots before. We're like, hey, his minutes are there. Maybe he'll be decent. He can get us there. He's typically a pretty low usage guy. He's not involved a lot. He breaks a lot of hearts. But at 3,500, he makes sense. He's not like a lock and load kind of play, but he should be in the strong majority of your lineups. Do you agree with that sentiment, or do you think I'm
Oh yeah,
crazy
for
there?
sure. I agree.
Yeah. So not a lock, but he should be in your lines. Austin Reeves is getting a lot of attention today too. I've seen some people starting to talk about him. I know D'Angelo Russell, he was a little bit volatile last year, fell out of the starting lineup last year as well. What are you doing with these two guards when it comes to the Lakers tonight?
Austin Reeves, I'll probably be around Phil weight, maybe even under. It took me a while to become a Reeves believer last season, but he has improved tremendously. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did well tonight, but he's just not like a play that kind of jumps out at me. So I don't mind him just because I think the shooting guard position tonight is kind of weak and he can fill in that spot if needed. As far as D'Angelo, I'll probably be underweight on him as well, just due to his volatility.
Yeah. Yeah, I was right there with you. It took me forever to believe that Reeves was a guy who was actually decent on the Lakers. But I'm a believer now. I'm totally fine having exposure to him tonight. One guy who no one's playing is Christian Wood. It doesn't look like he's going to see a ton of minutes here. This is probably a good time to talk about it. This is game 1 of the NBA season. We don't know what rotations are going to look like. We don't know for sure how many minutes these guys are going to have. So there's a lot of risk involved early on in the season when it comes to NBA DFS. But can you think of a reason for why we should maybe play Christian Wood? I mean, or is there any
Honestly,
reason why?
the only angle is I know we joke a lot about Anthony Davis getting
Yeah.
hurt early. So that's really the only angle. If you're playing that angle, maybe play Wood. But he's definitely somebody I probably won't be touching just because his price is too high for the role he'll be playing.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And guys, it's good to see you all in the chat. Thank you guys for sticking around and asking some questions and just chatting back and forth. Agreed, Cincy. Like, I'm so glad NBA is back. And for those of you that don't know, too, we have a pre-lock show. B-Dubs will be joining a lot of the times. He'll be on this afternoon and most of this week and next week as well. That 5:30 p.m. show, which is for VIP members only, that is where we do the deep dive into the slate, and we can tell you, hey, this is where ownership is. This is where we're going to be over or under on certain guys. We can also just answer any questions you all have then. But back to the slate. The core key players here that I am really trying to figure out what I'm doing on this slate with is Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Like you mentioned, B-Dubs, AD has a very, very strong reputation of being fragile and always getting hurt. As soon as he falls, you're praying every time, like, just get back up, man. Just get up, AD. But 8,900, he's looking like another viable play on this 2-gamer. Obviously, we both play multiple lines, so we're not fading him by any means. But AD is a guy that I'm interested in maybe going over the field on a little bit here, depending on where ownership actually falls. Do you think I'm crazy there? Do you prefer LeBron here, or like, what are your thoughts here?
So I think we usually think very similar, and I'm definitely gonna be over the field on AD for sure. I like him tonight. That price tag is really good on him.
That's the hard part about having you on, is that all of my sneaky plays are probably your sneaky plays. So
Yep.
we're never gonna think the other's crazy unless you do say something. Then I'll be as transparent as possible. Zolo mentioned something interesting here. He said, I can see Wood getting phased out as the season goes on because his defense is terrible. I don't think you're wrong. I could see the opposite happening too, where Anthony Davis really doesn't like playing the 5. And if Christian Wood could be decent, there's a chance he sees more minutes than we think. So I'm keeping a very close eye on that situation. But for this slate, I'm playing, we're going to be over on AD. LeBron, I'm fine having some exposure to him, but he's not someone I'm trying to force. And then I think Vincent could be a little sneaky here as well, but I really just want to see what ownership looks like on this slate. But I'm more interested in the other teams. Anything else on the Lakers that you think we should talk about? Anything that we're missing?
I was just gonna say LeBron is probably somebody I'll be under the field on, just because I think there's other guys who are cheaper that can either match him or pass him on this slate.
Yeah, I prefer to play LeBron when there's a multiple studs out like D'Lo and AD, or even just AD. When everyone's healthy, and definitely they can find a way to get a lead in this game, or if there's a bit of a gap here, I don't really see LeBron pushing the pace here too much, but we'll see. I could be wrong. For the Nuggets, this team is a lot more interesting. Looks like Michael Porter Jr. is going to play, which is good. Christian Bronze, and no real injury news for this team that makes things super interesting. But I think most people are starting their lineups around the Nuggets tonight. What are your thoughts on this team, man?
This is probably my favorite team on the slate. I mean, you got Joker, who's easily the best player on the slate. So he'll probably be a core play for me. I love Jamal Murray. Definitely one of the best point guards on the slate, and he might be in my core as well. And then I'm a huge MPJ fan, so I can see me being over the field on him as well. And Gordon, I feel a little iffy about playing him sometimes, but I like the price tag on him as well. So those four guys are going to be my main players I target.
Yeah, the Nuggets, when it comes to Aaron Gordon and MPJ, I always prefer them kind of like LeBron James when someone's out. It just makes the situation so much easier. We've seen Gordon and MPJ be super volatile. I do feel like you're probably going to need one of these guys in most of your lineups tonight, but I don't have a strong lean one way or the other. I'm going to do a little bit more digging and then hopefully come to a conclusion by a pre-lock show, but we'll see. Bobby, good to see you. Said, I think Jokic doesn't really start doing well until a few weeks into the season. It seems to take him a while to get going. That wouldn't shock me. I also just don't like Jokic as much as I used to. Like, just seeing his interviews post-championship, him not being hyped up the way I want him to be. My fandom is going lower and lower and lower, but he's super good. And it's only 10K. We normally see Jokic priced at like 12,600. And so my personal bias doesn't really freaking matter. This man, he goes to work and gets his work done. So I'm going to be extremely over the field. Looks like ownership came in and we have him around 55%. We were talking about it before the show, B-Dubs. Like, I think we were both expecting that to be a bit higher, right?
Yep.
So I think I'm still going to be over this. I think probably most people will. So,
yeah, like you said, if he was 12K, I would feel maybe a little better about going under, but 10K is just way too cheap for him.
Yeah, I appreciate them being kind to us to start off the season by just giving us a, hey, play Jokic in your lines. And that's what I'm doing. Like, I'm just playing Jokic in my lines. He's underpriced for the role he has on this team, and that's pretty much it for me. If he was 12,000, like you said, then we would have a bit more of a conversation around it. I would probably lean towards fading him. But at that price tag, it's just too easy. Any other like stands or people who are like really standing out for you on this team?
KCP, if you're looking for somebody cheaper at the shooting guard position, because like I said, that's kind of weak on this slate. Not somebody I'm really too excited to play just because he's volatile as well, but he plays a lot of minutes and he's known for those games where he pops off here and there. So I definitely can see myself getting to some KCP. I know Christian Brown has been a topic of conversation for some. I don't see myself getting to that point, but it wouldn't surprise me if he played a good chunk of minutes and was kind of one of the sneaky plays on the slate.
Yeah, and I'm also glad you're here too, B-Dubs, because you're helping me with player pronunciation. That's an area of weakness for me. So Christian Brown, yeah. I think Christian Brown is one of those guys who could definitely see a benefit with Brown being gone from this team now. He's someone who could see an increase in minutes. And for me, that's the key. Like, minutes and usage percentages, those are the things that can help you find, especially early in the season, players that are a little bit devalued. And I think we have a chance of getting that with guys like KCP, Brown, even maybe like a Justin Holiday could see a few more minutes with a guy like Brown not being here. These aren't guys I'm trying to go over the field on, but I think they're guys that, as you can see, like, are relatively low owned. And I'm willing to take some easy, like 5-10% shots on guys like Brown and Holiday here. Of course, on the pre-lock show, we'll see if I'm actually setting that in stone. But for now, like, those are just some like theory crafts that I think are pretty interesting. And I think we have already agreed we're going to be heavy on the starters, right?
Yep. Yeah, those guys, the bench for Denver, they're definitely not somebody I would play in my single entry. But definitely no. If you're doing 150, especially on a 2-game slate, they're worth at least 10%, 5 to 10%.
Yeah, agreed. And that's kind of a good point that we probably should have started the show on. what is kind of like your general philosophy on like a 2-gamer? Like, do you have a strategy that you like to utilize here, or do you just kind of go with what you normally do?
So I think you definitely got to take bigger stands on a 2-gamer. So I like to either go way over the field on guys I like, or just going way under the field. And then definitely, like I mentioned with Christian Brown and those other low on guys,
Mm-hmm.
if they're sub 5%, I don't mind just forcing them in for 5 to 10%. So, but
Yep.
yeah, definitely just taking stands. Like LeBron would be somebody I'm probably fading, and then we'll get to it when we get to Golden State. But Curry might be on that list as well.
I mean, I was with you on the LeBron fade, but if he's 10% owned, you already know that's an easy 20% for me. So I feel like that's an easy way to get leverage on a small slate, is by like attacking those low owned guys. And again, like, I agree with you, B-Dubs. Like, I think LeBron's the guy we should be under on, but like, when you're GPPing, I'm just like easy leverage, and that's the way I usually like to attack it. And that kind of goes into my philosophy a little bit too. On 2-gamers, I don't really change my approach too much, but I do usually like to find an edge, like you mentioned, being over on some guys around like 10-15% or double, and then also having some guys that I'm going under on. I don't like to just run the slate and just play it. I like to figure out where am I getting different. So good midway point before we start talking about these Suns again. All right, so for the Suns, we actually do have some injury news. We have Devin Booker listed as questionable, Bradley Beal looking like he's not going to play, thank God, and then Damian Lee is injured. What are your quick thoughts on the Suns? Who's standing out for you?
Definitely Kevin Durant for sure. 8,400 is just ridiculous for him. And then Booker, he's 50-50, so we'll have to watch out on news later. But
Yep.
If he plays, he'll be one of my favorite plays on the slate for sure.
Yeah.
These other guys, they'll definitely be pretty tough to figure out. Phoenix added quite a bit of new guys, so
yeah, this team looks very different than last year. Just to list off the starting lineup, for instance, we have Devin Booker, like you mentioned, 50-50. Grayson Allen was not on this team previously. Okogie was here, still kind of irrelevant, if we're being honest. Not on this slate, but in general, kind of irrelevant. Kevin Durant, Nurkic is replacing Ayton, so a very different look Suns team. Gridiron asked a good question, though, and I'll pass it to you, B-Dubs. Are the bench value players key for you on a small slate? Like, do you pay them more attention, or like, what's your thought philosophy here?
it honestly depends on the slate. I think tonight for sure that'll be key, especially these Phoenix value plays. I think mentioning them, Eric Gordon and Josh Okogie, I'll probably be heavy on for sure. But then you got guys like Keita Bates, Diop, and Jordan Goodwin, who are showing no ownership to little no ownership, and I could see them possibly being sneaky plays as well.
Yeah, I think on a small slate, I definitely care more about the bench players than I do on a main slate, like or on a larger slate. On a larger slate, I really most of the time couldn't give zero cares about who is on the bench unless they see decent minutes. Whereas on a 2-game slate, you have to pay a lot more attention. And so we named a few of those like low owned guys who you might want to sprinkle into some of your lineups, and we're going to name a lot more in this last game too. So good question there, Gridiron. I think for me, this team, I know you're heavy on Durant. I like Durant and Booker. And so for me, like when I think about the studs who are popping for me, it's like Durant, Booker, and Jokic are like my main 3. And then the other stars and studs, I'm just going to keep an eye on ownership and just kind of see where I'm at once I run the domination station a bit more. So are you anti-Booker if he ends up playing? I know he's 50-50.
Oh, no. If he plays, I'll have a lot of Booker for sure. I love Booker tonight.
Yeah, the injury tag does scare me, but then I think about how it's going to scare everybody, and then I get over it. So that's usually the way I go about that. What about the rest of these guys? Oh, go ahead.
I saw a question about Nurk.
Okay.
I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with him. Like, I'm not totally against playing him, but he's just another one of those players where he's hit or miss. It'll just be hard to read him just because he's on a new team this season.
Yeah. Nurk he's one of those guys I think everybody can kind of feel like he's in a prime spot to have a fantastic season. But it's the Suns. And the Suns and their center rotation is almost always a pain in the ass. And Drew Eubanks is a decent center. Like, he is very viable. And so it wouldn't shock me if they do continue to have like a decent split between Nurkic and Eubanks. And Bol Bol's on this team too. So I think there's a few viable options here that just kind of lower the ceiling for Nurkic. I'm sure he'll be in a few of my lineups, but I'm not super excited about it. We did play bigs against Golden State for a while. And I would be more than willing to do it again today. I just don't trust that rotation enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think he's going to be somebody where I won't force any extra exposure to.
Yeah.
But if I'm like around fill weight or slightly under, and Diaz gives me around that percentage, then I would be fine with it.
Yeah, totally agree. What about Allen today? Starting in the starting lineup, didn't really see that one coming, to be honest with you, but here we are. What are your thoughts?
I'm not a huge Grayson Allen fan. He's another volatile player. He has the ability to pop off, but I think I'd rather go down to Eric Gordon, who should see a lot of run as well.
Yeah, I think it looks like Eric Gordon's getting most of the ownership right now. I think people making an educated guess here. I'm thinking we kind of expected Gordon to start. And so it wouldn't shock me if that ownership starts to pivot to Allen, but we'll have to keep a close eye on it. It's just such an interesting spot. I think for me, whoever has the lowest ownership percentage is going to be the guy that I'm going to be the highest on. I'm assuming it's going to move to Allen, so I like the Eric Gordon pivot. But if the ownership really does stay on Gordon, then Allen becomes very, very viable. And just like you, I hate saying that.
If he stays at that ownership, I don't mind taking shots on him. But if the ownership reverses with Gordon and he becomes chalky, then that's a easy fade for me, I think.
Yeah, like assuming he starts, then like he is in a really good spot. So even though we don't like it, it makes a lot of sense. And then Okogie. He's also the final starter on this slate, only 4K. He's getting decent ownership. He looks good here. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's one of my favorite value plays tonight, and I'll definitely either be at the field or over on him.
Yeah, I think having guys like Gordon and Okogie be like in that 4K range is really what makes it so we don't have to go overboard on guys like Prince and some of the other volatile, like very like inconsistent players. It really makes it so you can spread the love out a little bit more. Diesel, good to see you. Said new to DFS basketball. Any particular settings for Diesel when starting builds? What are your thoughts on this? I'll let you start and then I'll go B-dubs unless you want me to start off here.
Yeah, so really the only settings I touch, I run it in tournament mode, one unique, and then I don't have any randomization.
Yep. I'm very similar to you. I would say the biggest difference between like basketball and NFL is when it comes to football, you have very particular settings and you have very particular rules and you kind of know what you're looking for there. Whereas with basketball, I'm spread out a lot less. I know who I want in my lineups and I control things a bit more. Sometimes I don't understand things and the domination station will toss in some guys. And that's when I'm just like, all right, I'm going to trust Jesus here. So that's kind of how I play it. And then on the pre-lock show, we go over a lot more around like how I'm actually utilizing the domination station, and B-dubs will be there to show how he does it as well. So we go a lot more in depth on the pre-lock show there. Anyone else on the Suns team that you think we're kind of missing out on tonight?
I saw somebody mention Goodwin in the chat, and I kind of mentioned him earlier, but he's probably one of those low on guys I wouldn't mind taking some shots on, especially with Bill being out.
Yeah, and that does we mentioned it, but yeah, Beal is indeed out for Robert, who asked about that. And yeah, that's kind of why guys like Goodwin and some of the other guards are a bit more viable here. Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all there. All right, and then last but not least, this Golden State Warriors team. This is a team that I didn't think I was going to want a lot of exposure to when I saw this game show up originally, but now here we are. It's where I probably have most of my exposure on this slate. For those of you that don't know, Draymond Green is out for this game, which did open things up a lot. It made me a lot more interested in guys like Chris Paul, who did not see that one coming. But what are your thoughts on the Warriors today, man?
Another team I love, probably second team I like the most behind the Nuggets.
Yep.
I'll just say Chris Paul is probably somebody I'll have close to 100% of.
Yeah. And it looks like it's going to be around 84% ownership. So 100% is kind of the only way you can get leverage on it.
Yep.
Like, I felt so good this weekend. I was like, Chris Paul, 5,600. Definitely not playing that. That's stupid. And then here we are playing Chris Paul's old ass. Like,
I had the same thoughts.
I hate playing it, but he should be starting, or yeah, he should be starting tonight with Curry and Thompson. Is going to be a relatively small lineup, and against the Suns, I don't really see them trying to go bigger than that. So I agree. I like this team. I like Chris Paul. I like Andrew Wiggins a lot. I think the guy who no one's really talking about a lot though is Curry. What? How are you playing Curry today? Are you going under on him? Are you trying to go over the field on him? What are your thoughts
As,
here?
as of now, he is probably somebody I'm going to be under the field on.
Mhm.
I think behind Joker, he's the second, or he might be the third behind LeBron, but he's just expensive. And then you got cheaper guys who can, again, match what he can do. So I'm definitely looking to be under the field on Curry.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing around with the DS a little bit more and seeing how I can try to get Curry into more of my lineups. But because I'm so heavy on Jokic, it limits how much Curry you can get. But I'm gonna try and get a little weird. But I think the smartest way of building lineups tonight is playing a bit more balanced. There's some guys like Chris Paul, who's 5,600, who are in fantastic spots, and I think you can build more so around like Chris Paul, Jokic, some of the Nuggets guys who are priced pretty decently in that mid range. I think that's what the ideal lineup is going to look like. But OS is asking like fade Braun or Curry. It seems like those are the two guys who aren't getting enough ownership, and so I'm going to want leverage to one of those two. I just haven't quite landed on who. Uh, I just keep going back and forth on that. But what about you? Like, who do you prefer, like fading Braun or Curry?
I agree with what you said on Braun, just because his ownership is lower. It wouldn't take much to get leverage on him, but Curry at 20% is a little more fadeable for me. And like you said, I'll have a lot of Joker, and this five to 6K range is my favorite. So I
Yeah.
definitely want to mix and match a lot of those guys. And trying to fit Curry and Joker in the same line is going to be tough to do.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. One of the like Clay Thompson kind of falls into a weird spot too. At 6,500, he's in a really weird range. Uh, are you planning on getting to him a lot at all, or what are your thoughts
I
there?
do. I mentioned it earlier. The
Oh,
shooting
sorry.
guard position is rough. So, like you said, that 6,500 range is kind of weird, and it worries me a little bit. But I'll probably be around Phil Wade on Clay.
Yeah. The first thing I saw when we got the Draymond Green news is Kaminga season. Like everyone and their mom got on the Kaminga train. He's only at like 27% ownership here. He's not starting, so it's not like Draymond out, Kaminga in. Kaminga can be all over the freaking place sometimes. Are you thinking like this is a Kaminga spot or no?
Ugh, that's a loaded question.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to it, just so you know.
I
So
don't either, because Kerr is known to play
yeah.
games when it comes to Kuminga, so that makes me a little uneasy.
Mhm.
That 4,600 price tag kind of worries me a little bit too with him not starting. If he for sure was starting, then I would feel better about playing him. But it's not probably a spot I want to go to over the field on.
Yeah. And then you see it in the chat too. If it's not Kuminga, Sark is getting a lot of attention too. We have him projected for around 20 minutes. Not the most explosive guy, but at 3,400, he could definitely get there for us. Is he someone that's on your radar at all tonight?
I actually didn't give him much thought. I didn't dig that far down yet, but I mean, at that ownership and that price tag on a 2-game slate, I definitely don't mind getting maybe like 10 to 15% of them.
The question is, how will Kerr screw us tonight? And thank God Chris Paul's on this team, so I feel pretty good about it not being Moses Moody. I feel decent about it not being Gary Payton. And so that's why I feel like it's Kuminga or Sark with Draymond being out. I feel like that's the way it's going to go. But like I said, when it comes to week 1 NBA DFS, we can't look at rotations and stats and see what they've done previously. The knowledge just isn't there because this is a slightly different team. And we've seen Kerr switch things up every time something different happens. So you honestly can't even look at that in the regular season like 2 months from now. But interesting spots. So just as we look at this slate as a whole, what's kind of like your takeaway notes? Like what should the people remember before we kind of go away for a little bit?
I think it's starting with Joker. I mean,
Yeah.
again, he's 10K. It's going to be hard not to be high on him. Booker, that news is going to be huge. So like I said, we definitely got to watch out for that. If he plays, he'll be one of my highest owned players on the slate. And then again, those 5K range players, Chris Paul, Wiggins, Michael Porter Jr. and Gordon, I'll definitely be way over the field on them as well.
I think that's a great take. Like I think this slate is going to be made in this 5 to 6K range, and I want just like different variations and different mixes of these players because like we talked about between Gordon and Porter just on that same team, I want different lineup variations of those guys. So I agree. Awesome. All right. Well, B-Dubs, it was great having you. It's going to be a good season. It's going to be a crazy one, as we can already tell, waiting on a 50-50 player in the first game of the season. But yeah, it's going to be awesome, and look forward to seeing everyone on the pre-lock show later tonight at 5:30 p.m. I'll see you all then. Peace out, guys. Have a good one.